Oh.
Ryan.
And we are live, motherfuckers. Welcome to episode 272.
Woof!
American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, you got not the Johnny Drama version, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for not buffaloing those police and feed them many fish stories.
Anyone who knows that reference can be a friend of mine.
And we've got Eric from Hey Internet Eric here. Thank you for joining us once again.
Yeah, it's been a while. Good to be back.
Yeah,
We haven't done a live stream in a while. I don't know that we're going to be doing that many over the course of the summer as I've moved in a bit of a different direction, but I'd like to, get a couple in, maybe one a month or something like that, and that'd be good.
Yeah.
So we can also enjoy our summers and live our lives. What have we got here? We've got a B movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly interesting. I just saw it before we went on. It's called The Blob. So if you're ready to go, shall we get it going?
Let's do it.
Boogie woogie.
Run out of the theater! It's coming!
Speaking of the most horrible thing,
should have had a better reaction than that.
No, that's about all it deserves.
Remember what I said? It was good to be back.
Yeah. You're eating those fucking words now, aren't you?
Wow.
All right. What have we got? See, the few people we had in the stream have left now. Thanks, I appreciate that. We had 3. Now we went down to 1, and I guess
I scored them with my belly.
Yeah, you did something. Is that what it's called? All right. So it sort of boggles the brain that this movie is Criterion Collection, and I should say that The Blob is playing right now on HBO Max. So if you've got HBO or Max or HBO Max, it's on there right now. It runs about
really good version of it up on YouTube for free. From the Criterion version, get it before it goes away.
Yeah, the Criterion is really clean and crisp. It looks amazing.
I was very impressed by how clean the HBO version is. I mean, I expected no less. It's HBO. And they have an agreement with Turner Classic Movies, so I'm sure that that's probably part of that too. But in watching or thinking about it on the surface, it boggles the brain that The Blob would be a Criterion Collection, and then you start to look at some of the tropes, that we have on there, and you're like, You've got the old teen rebellion trope coming up from the 1950s. You've got extraterrestrials. We've had movies already like The Thing or The Thing from Outer Space. We've had the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So, there's kind of a progression there. I did a little bit of research, where they're talking about, all the concerns of the 1950s. I mean, and in that sense, even in terms of teenage rebellion, I mean, this movie's way ahead of its time. Consumerism. Oh my God. Like if the Blob was out today, just consuming, it's like 70 years ahead of its time. Not the Johnny Drama version. What do you think of this film?
I am very biased. I love this movie. It is literally, apart from a few Godzilla movies, it is literally the first monster movie I remember watching as a real little kid. Because my mom made such a big deal of it because she loved that movie. And every time it would come on the channel, she'd like, you guys should watch this. This is a really good movie. Watch this movie. And I remember sitting there watching scenes of it. And I see those scenes today. And it brings me right back to being like a 6-year-old and just watching this flick. And I've seen it a dozen times at least over the course of 40 years. It was always popping up on Dr. Shock on a Saturday afternoon, or with Stella on Saturday Night Dead for the Philadelphia area people. And my wife and I have gone to BlobFest. It's
nice.
It takes place and was filmed in the area of Pennsylvania, right outside of Philly, where my grandparents, when they did the White Flight out of Delco, out of Upper Darby, they settled in Downingtown, and my aunt and uncle ran a gallery in Phoenixville. So it takes place and was filmed right where my family had settled, and I know this area, and this movie's a part of me. And rewatching it today, to be very critical of it, I just realized how good of a movie it really is for a piece of crap B movie that was dusted off by some fly-by-night production house in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. But I watched it again and I'm like, God damn it, this is a really good movie. They really did a good job. I mean, they're not breaking any, it's not an Oscar movie, but the way it was constructed, the way it was written, and certainly the performances are super solid. You got Steve McQueen, for Christ's sake, but all the acting is great. And the thing of this movie is there's very little action, at least until the end. There's a whole lot of implied things happening and a whole lot of you're told what you're scared of by the performances of people just talking to each other. It was a really well-made movie. So apart from the fact that it's about a blob of killer jelly from outer space, it's good.
If you can discount the premise, it's actually
yeah,
it's ironic.
I mean, even with the premise. But I think it's
entertaining.
It's entertaining, but it's also entertaining because it's well constructed for what it is.
All right. Eric, what do you got? I know you have a physical copy of this.
Yeah, I actually have the Criterion. I'm kind of like Bill with my love for this. I can be critical of films I love, but yeah, I love it too because I was made to watch it by my dad. My dad was a big nut when it came to these 50s, 60s sci-fi movies. He was big on, big bug movies like Them and Tarantula.
Tarantula, I remember Tarantula.
He loved, what was it, The Day the Earth Stood Still, all that type of stuff. And I've seen The Blob probably a handful of times, like, on TNT, Turner Classic Movies, or, I'm Chicago, so we had Svengoolie, and he plays all that type of stuff. It's definitely a B grade movie. And I think for what it is, with lack of budget, it's very simplistic. I think it's a very entertaining movie. I don't think the acting is Oscar worthy or anything like that, but these actors do their job. to move the plot along. They keep you interested. I mean, there's some unnecessary stuff like, drag racing and stuff like that, but it was 58, so it is what it is. You know what I mean? But I think it's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy like the finale when it's in the movie theater, when it's covering the diner and stuff like that. And it's super quick. It's like an hour and 23 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's very lean, and I'm never bored, even during some slow parts where it's just exposition. Like Bill says, they're telling you what's going on. I'm never bored. I'm always interested. And for 58, I think the special effects are pretty damn good with what they did with very little money. So I'm as critical as you can look at it now at 2025. But again, it's like you judge the time and what they had. Like look at King Kong. That's very, very dated, but for the time, it still is fantastically well done. So I really enjoy the Blob.
I found it to be extremely entertaining. It's a fun movie.
Is this the first time you watched it?
It's the first time in about 40 years, so I didn't really remember it at all. But of course, there are scenes you always remember, like when it comes rolling out of the theater, that kind of stuff. You got McQueen playing an 18-year-old. He's about 27. But it's good to see McQueen. I always enjoy seeing McQueen.
He's Stephen McQueen, yeah.
Yeah, he's Stephen McQueen, yeah. It's his first lead role. He's driving a really nice fucking car. He's got a 57 Plymouth Fury. That was one of the things that I noticed, and I'm like, got on the AI, and I was like, what car is Steve McQueen driving? And the Blob, and they're like, that's a 57 Fury, motherfucker. So it's a really... It picks right up. It's kind of like it's a drive-in movie.
Yes.
It's like in 57, you would have seen this in a drive-in, and it would have been the perfect thing. It doesn't pretend to be anything other than what it is, which is just an entertaining sort of B popcorn movie. Everybody seems to understand the assignment. The kids are right. People aren't listening to the kids. The grown-ups aren't listening to the kids. The cops aren't listening to the kids. And the kids don't overdo it, to the point where they're like obnoxious and assholes. The kids are actually right. They're kids. And the parents also don't overdo it. They have a healthy dose of skepticism. But then once things start to fall into place, you have parents that support their kids. I believe my son, he doesn't lie about things. If he says something happened, I believe him. They show concern. I don't know that you would necessarily get these kind of tropes today. If they were coming from teenagers, would be something, the gap would be much further in the relationship between parents and kids.
Yeah, if it was today, the parents would be out of touch completely, and the cops would be evil. That's the one thing I like about this in the teenage dynamic is that the cops really aren't being evil.
Right.
No,
they're not being mean-spirited. And I mean, we're talking about Pennsylvania cops, and they had a reputation of being mean, but the best interplay was between Steve McQueen and the cop when he got pulled over for driving backwards in the opening scenes when he's drag racing backwards. And he's talking to the cop on his level. And it's like, yeah, you're a cop, but this is small town Pennsylvania. I know
we all know each other.
And I thought that was really well done. And that's what I mean about the performances. I mean, that was, I've seen a million B movies, and that could have been shit dialogue performed terribly. And this was well done.
Yeah. For that. Yeah. Like I said, everybody understood the assignment. Hold on a second. We got some comments here. We got Slasher Fred. What's happening, man? Saying The Thing from Another World. Yeah. So, I mean, I think this is 1958. I think The Thing from Another World was 1951 or 52. So the precursor setting up for that, sort of extra, outer space kind of trope. As we, prepare to move into the decade of the space race. There are things from other planets now that we need to worry about. The world is the war is over. Second World War. We're now entering, the Cold War, and so we've got a different set of enemies to be concerned about. He said this movie has a bit of a boy cried wolf, where the main protagonist tries to tell something important, but nobody believes him. Yeah. He said the first victim is an old farmer with dog. In many of the sci-fi movies of the 50s, you always had a farmer who encounters something horrifying, which brings me back to our creep show. Yep. Where he brought that trope back out in the original creep show.
That was something that struck me when I was watching it earlier. I was like, really? There's a hillbilly in an old shack carrying an oil lamp, but they're just maybe a 10-minute drive outside of Philadelphia. Come on. But it's 1958, but there's a hillbilly.
That just made me think, Mike, you just brought up Creepshow, and that's one of the bits in Creepshow, Stephen King's The Bumpkin, he finds the meteor that gets on him. So that makes sense that he was inspired by this. But you just said McQueen was driving a 57 Plymouth Fury. That's Christine.
Yeah.
So obviously King must have loved the Blob growing up.
Yeah. I'm sure he did. I'm sure. I mean, if you had, like I said many times, if you must have seen Lugosi for the first time as Dracula back in the 30s, or seeing Karloff, it must have scared the shit out of you. If you had seen this for the first time, I'm sure, people were scared, like, what the hell, is this? I remember that old story from my parents watching a horror of Dracula. And my dad and my mom went, and he took his sister, my aunt, to go with him. Yeah, and she made my dad go in the house after they dropped her off to make sure that, like, Dracula wasn't in the house somewhere. She was genuinely freaked out by that. So, I mean, like you said, with King Kong, it's easy to, take it for granted now, but the effect this must have had back then, this must have been, I think they said the budget was about $100,000. It made like $4 million. So, I mean, back then that was a lot of money. So it was a huge success. It's very simple. You've got a fun little jingle in the beginning by Burt Bacharach, singing about the Blob.
Love the song.
Yeah, it's fun.
The thing about space was we were finally starting to send up satellites, and people were genuinely worried about what was, out in space. And we're less than 20 years removed from when War of the Worlds tricked 1.5 million people into thinking we were being invaded by Martians over the radio. So it must have been somewhat scary. It's new territory for the culture in general.
I also found some influence, but I couldn't find. Basically, what happens is, do we need to go through you have a meteorite that lands in the middle of a field in a bumpkin's backyard. The bumpkin breaks open the shell, and when I watched that shell break open, I was also reminded of Ridley Scott's Alien with the pods. The way it sort of split open, and there was like that slime ooze, inside the, before the face hugger came and grabbed you. And I'm like, Ridley Scott stole that from this movie. The minute I saw it, I'm like, he fucking stole that. Now I know where this came from. So, I don't know if I could find a cheap copy for like $5 or $10, I would probably buy it. I don't know that I would watch it like, religiously all the time. But it's not a bad movie to have. You make a little popcorn in the middle of a rainy Sunday or something and just watch the Blob.
Well, you just said it. It's a perfect Sunday afternoon popcorn flick. They still play the Blob at local theaters. Just a handful of months ago, maybe last year it was, the Blob was playing in my town. Like,
not surprised,
for Sunday matinees for like $3.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I was going and seeing. I was getting my popcorn. I was with my daughter, and she wasn't going to fucking see the Blob at that age. she wasn't interested, so it was probably like Sonic the Hedgehog or something stupid like that. But it was fun. As we were waiting to get her popcorn, I could hear because there's 3 rooms, we're going down the middle, and I can hear off to the right the Blob jingle is playing. I'm like, damn it! If she was just a little older and could have, she now appreciates the cheesy stuff and stuff like that. I'm just like, ooh, but it's perfect for these midnight showings at local theaters, and I guarantee you get a full crowd with popcorn and stuff like that. People would just have a blast with this.
Every year
I would probably go see
they
this
do it
on
at
the big
Phoenixville.
screen.
Yeah,
I would probably
BlobFest,
go.
They do it every year. We did the run out of the theater, the original theater where they filmed the thing. Every year they have a film fest, and on Saturday night they play the Blob. And at that part, when the Blob's coming, everyone runs out of the theater. It's filmed. It's awesome.
That's fun.
Getting a crowd that's all into horror movies to see the Blob. It's great.
Hold on a second. Fred says in the 1988 remake, they gender role reversed the main protagonist, mostly because in the 1980s, mostly we were occupied by strong female characters. Kevin Dillon was in the original one, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Kevin Dillon and Shawnee Smith was the female lead.
Oh, yeah. It was a little more gross, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was rated R. It was full on.
Frank Darabont.
Yeah, Frank Darabont.
Oh, was it really?
Was one of the writers.
Okay.
And the guy he always works with, who helped him with Walking Dead, he directed it. Yeah, it's definitely full on gore, but I really like.
Oh, was it Bob Kirkman? Was it Kirkman?
He might have done the effects. I'll look it up, but.
Bill, get on the production duty there and go check it. Who wrote and directed that?
I am not Jamie, but hang on.
I got it.
I saw that in the theaters, the '88 version.
Chuck Russell directed it, and he and Frank Darabont wrote the screenplay. They worked together on every fucking thing.
It said he says this movie has a sequel, and they had a scene where they showed the original movie on TV, which was very similar to The Thing from 1982, where they showed a video from the 1951 movie. Yeah.
Beware the Blob is a very meta sequel. You know,
I thought it was like The Blob Returns or something. Okay, it was Beware the Blob.
It's definitely more meta. It's definitely more cheesy and tries to be more goofy. I don't think it's as fun as the original at all. But that's just me.
The Blob is barely in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's ironic. And you got a monster movie where the monster is barely in it, but I think that the effects for the monster are actually, and for the time, pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty, like when he first grabs a hold of that bumpkin's arm and he starts moving up his arm, and you look at the arm, you're like, what the fuck is that? Like, I hadn't seen it in 40 years. So I'm like, that's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. And then it just slowly gets bigger and bigger. And, you even got a little drama with the dog where they're, you're hoping that the little dog makes it, this, that, and the other. I'm like, okay. That's
sound design. The dog that's barking when the bumpkin goes to get the meteor. That's a guy.
Yeah, you can tell it's a man doing the barking noises in the very beginning.
Is it really? I'm paying attention to that. Okay.
Yeah, I loved it. But it's a great, again, we always say this, less is more on this channel. It's a great way of less is more. Like when the mechanic gets it, you know what I mean? You just see his legs sticking out from under the car, and then you see a shot of the Blob, and then you see his legs kicking. You get the point. You don't have to see the gore. It's 58, so there wasn't any gore then, you know what I mean? But you don't have to worry about special effects looking good. It does its job, and it does it effectively.
Yeah.
What else?
Wait, there's someone in the market. Nothing, no one but us monsters. Those throwaway lines are great throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
You guys going ahead. I gotta attend to I gotta close all the windows now because the dog's gonna start barking at everything that's like moving in the woods. But I thought one of the more interesting things the dog will get. I live in. It's fox season. Foxes are all over the place. So every once in a while, you hear something getting dragged off unwillingly around 9:30 at night. It's interesting. It's interesting. But I thought one of the interesting things was, and I thought this was actually funny, was when the doctor tried to shoot the fucking Blob with the double barrel. Look, what the fuck kind of doctor is this? He's got a fucking side by side just sitting in his
while the nurse is screaming, help me, and the guy's there. The shells into the gun.
After she already throws a giant bottle of acid on it that does nothing.
Yeah, I'll pop it with a couple of slugs, a couple of bird shots. That'll do it. I'll be right back. Guys, carry on for a second. I'll be right back.
All right.
That's what I thought was kind of fun. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it's just, it's 1958, and it's just making me think, what kind of doctor just happens to have like a jar of acid, in his office and stuff like that. But
That's where the artistic license comes in.
But like my age now, and I've seen all these cheesy sci-fi horror movies from this time. It fits the trope. You know what I mean? And that type of stuff, because that's like one of the requirements. The doctor always has acid or something that no doctor should fucking have in his home office. You know what I mean? And it just brings a big fucking smile to my face.
He's on the phone and just nonchalantly, I might have to go ahead and just amputate. It's like, what? Yeah. You're just a general practitioner in your office at your house, and you're just going to go ahead and amputate.
Yeah, it just makes me like, how is he going to do that? He's lucky the nurse was able to come back that late at night to help him. Exactly. Was he going to amputate it by himself in 58? What does he do? Does he cauterize it with a blowtorch or something like that? You know what I mean?
Like it's a Civil War, just sawing,
Yeah, here, bite down on this. You'll be fine. Yeah. It's just that type of stuff, I always got a kick out. And it's just a fun era of movies. Like I said, growing up with them, you know what I mean?
The beauty of this movie is it's timeless because it doesn't it doesn't load you up with any kind of politics. It doesn't make any kind of social statement, really, at least until the end, which we can talk about later. But all the tropes are just, that thing that keeps you hanging on. The teenagers know something's happening and no one will believe them. And that causes the audience to just sit on the edge of their seat going, no, there is a monster in there. And like when they're in the freezer or in the market and you're just like, no, the monster's in there. But no one will believe them. And that triggers that thing. That's like it's marketed right towards kids, and kids know that feeling of not being believed. And there's things going on. It's the beauty of this. It's like it wrote the book. And that's what I mean by it being a really good movie. Because I've seen so many B movies where the dialogue is just throwaway so we can get to the next scene of gore with ketchup poured all over a mannequin.
Yeah.
This isn't about shock. It isn't about gore. It's about building this tension with the audience, knowing that the audience is kids and knowing that they know that feeling of not being believed. It's really well done for a $12,000 movie made in Valley Forge.
And what I really like,
good.
What I really like is, we were talking the characters, there's no assholes really in this movie. All these characters, they're there to do their job. They're likable for 90% of it. You got the people, giving Steve McQueen a hard time, but they're not jerks. You know what I mean? They're just, just giving them a hard time.
Kids.
Yeah, that's all it is. They're just teenagers, and that's what I like, because I've always said it, like, whether I'm watching, any type of horror movie, whether it's a slasher movie or something like this, a sci-fi movie, if I don't like the characters, I don't give a shit. I don't get into it. And I know, like in the 80s and stuff, you just go to see the teenagers. They're just meat for the grinder.
Right.
I enjoy when I can get behind these characters and I don't want them off my screen. You know what I mean? I want to see them survive. And I don't know I haven't seen a lot of Steve McQueen stuff, but I really liked him as the lead in this. He did what he had to do. You got behind him, and you like you would say, you just wish the fucking cops would listen to him, because he's not pulling a prank or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to see Great Escape.
It's one of those things where this was the era before the sex trope.
It opens up on a nice hot makeout session.
It opens up like, and that's an interesting point in how respectful McQueen is. And even when he tries to step out of line a little bit by like calling her Janie girl or whatever, like she's like, no, my name is like she want, so they meet as equals. It's not like fuck you, you bitch, or this, that, that you'd get nowadays, or the 80s where, there had to be some gratuitous nudity, that really didn't add anything to the story.
The HBO version where they're full on having sex before. The shooting balls.
What I liked is
the only. Hold on, let me just say this one thing. Sure. The only guy that really was a jerk was the one cop, and he kind of gets put in his place. The one who just like hates kids, and they're like, "Look, buddy, just because your wife had a car accident with a teenager doesn't make every teenager, a bad person." It's like it gets right to the point of what his problem is, and then it's just like, get over yourself.
What I was saying is, like, one thing, again, we're talking about how, Steve McQueen, he's very respectful to her when she doesn't want to be called Janie Girl and stuff like that. When he, they go to search for I don't know if it's right before they see the meteor or not, but either way, he when he apologizes to her and he says, I'm sorry, I'll go buy you a sandwich or whatever the line is. He says,
that's right,
you actually believe him. He's not just trying to butter her up with a sandwich to get laid later on. He legitimately like, okay, well, I kind of upset her, hurt her feelings by, annoying her by calling her this nickname. I want to make it up to her. And that's what I liked about, he's a very likable and respectful character. And that's why you want to follow him through the end of this movie.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, is that really reflective of what teenagers were at the time in 1958? Overall, was it someone's impression of teenagers that they were trying to put out there? Or how different is it from the way the 1950s are portrayed nowadays? Where we're looking at revisionist history, where everyone was awful racist, and women were treated like cattle, and like it's a weird, like, is the art reflecting the real way teenagers thought about themselves at the time?
I was just having this conversation. I mean, in 50, because they were talking about the divorce rates. Someone was talking about divorce rates, and I was saying, my parents got married in 58. They got married in 58, June of 58. They were dirt poor. But they stayed married for 58 years until my mom passed away. And it took about 20 years for them to move into middle class.
Mm-hmm.
And people were saying, like, nowadays, women wouldn't stick around for that 20 years just being poor. The husband would be an asshole. He'd be useless, this, that, or the other. I think it is reflective of a different time.
Mm-hmm.
Where people were, women were interested in, like, legitimate commitment, maybe they were willing to be submissive or whatever, but, you had to be respectful, and, like, Jane wasn't, like, putting up with anything that was, like, slightly out of her character, and I think that sort of established her very simply, but as a strong character in the movie for what it is. The guys, in the beginning, doing the race drag in reverse, the car race, they're just kind of messing with each other. But when it came time to get serious, hey, I need your help with this. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. At the end, hey, let's, Sheriff, take us with you. We'll get those CO2 extinguishers. We got cars, we can transport them. We want to help. And it was, it's small town, community politics. And there, everybody knows everybody, from 1958.
Yeah. And then it's just funny, the juxtaposition between that and the government going, let's just dump this thing in Antarctica.
The government's got, Okay. So hold on. We got Fred here. Hold on. If you guys ever see Killer Clowns from Outer Space, I think that'd be much more Eric shtick. Mm-hmm. They took all the elements from the Blob, including the elderly policeman who is prejudiced against youngsters, and both of them have a nice cop named Dave.
Also, just got the bumpkin in the woods with the dog.
My wife's favorite movie.
Yep.
The 50s, you always had the girl in danger in movies like King Kong or Creature from the Black Lagoon. Now, Creature from the Black Lagoon is on a different level, I would argue, from this movie, although this is a fantastic movie.
We talked
like that one scene where the creature is swimming below the woman, and it's just gorgeous.
It's amazing, dude.
Holy shit, that's beautiful.
I saw the creature for the first time within the last handful of months, and
oh, really?
I loved it. And then when I got to the sequels, I'm like, oh man, it's such a drop in quality, in my opinion. It's like that scene in The Godfather. Look how they massacred my boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The original is so good.
We got Anthony Jordan, movies and gaming. What's happening? Thanks for stopping by. This movie doesn't deserve to be overshadowed by the remake. They deserve to stand side by side with one another. I would imagine, although I don't remember if we rented that on VHS, the 1988 remake. I would argue probably, and I don't remember because I only saw it once, so I never had any great desire to see it again, that this movie would overshadow that remake.
I remember going to see it in the theater and being disappointed, but being like, yeah, whatever. You know, but I wasn't watching it critically. I was 88. I
88.
Was 20. You know, I just went for to see it, and I was like, whatever. It didn't stand up to it at all from my point of view at that time.
I have a lot of fun with it, but I mean, it's nothing special. It's literally just a remake of the Blob. It's just a gigantic space monster that, made of jelly that eats people. It's just they improved on the special effects and they added a bunch of gore.
And they had Johnny Drama months before Platoon.
That was Kevin Dillon?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a universe of difference between 1958 and 1988.
Yeah.
The world is just in a completely different place.
Yep.
The 80s were the 80s were a rough time. And it reflects in a lot of the movies that were made. You're like, holy shit, like how do people get away with this kind of crap? A lot of crap, low budget movies, low budget production companies that were known for making those sorts of things. Yes, I think at the time we appreciate.
It's like in the 50s, we went and we ate it up.
Yeah, they made money. It up. That's it.
But see, here's the thing.
See a horror movie every week from like 1985 when I could first start driving right through like 1990. I was just there.
Right, but here's the difference. Today we're talking about the Blob from 1958. We're not talking about the Blob from 1988.
True.
We don't like. There are a few movies, and like I always use that example of Schwarzenegger's Commando.
Yeah,
it's a great fucking movie. It's also a terrible fucking movie.
Yes.
I own a copy on Blu-ray, but to be honest, now I just don't. I'm never in the mood to watch Commando. Like, if I could splice out maybe 15 minutes worth of scenes like that, I would watch. But like to have to watch that whole thing, I can't bring myself to do it anymore. This, this I could do.
For me, it's Cobra with Stallone.
Yeah.
But then you compare that to the original Rambo, and it's night and day.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
now First Blood, I'll watch anytime. I'll watch First Blood right now.
That's what I'm saying.
But it also depends on the flick too. Commando is not trying to be, fucking Oscar worthy. Mike, one of my favorite bad movies. It's a bad movie, but I fucking love it. Is Stone Cold with the Boss and Lance Henriksen. You know what I mean? So it just all depends on the
William
movie
Forsythe.
Yeah,
William Forsythe too.
Well, you got to think back to 1958, and there must have been 24 other movies competing with the Blob, and the Blob probably stands out, and we're still talking about it today because of this intrinsic quality. Where these other movies were just crap churned out for the teenage audience for 25 cents a seat,
Well, I mean, the year before you get movies like, I think it was 57, and I haven't watched this movie since then because it scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. I was a teenage werewolf.
My dad's favorites. I haven't seen it yet.
1958, horror. I was just looking at Horror of Dracula, 1958, same year. The Fly. With David Hedison and Vincent Price. The Blob, The Revenge of Frankenstein. That was the one with that's the Hammer production. Terror from Beyond Space. The Fiend Without a Face. I don't remember. I Married a Monster from Outer Space.
Right.
Exactly. I've heard of that one.
Attack of the 50-Foot Woman.
Oh
shit,
yeah.
I forgot all about that.
That's a good one. That's a fun one. I got that on Blu-ray.
The Haunted Strangler. I don't know that one. Well, it's Boris Karloff. Okay. The Woman Eater. Okay. All right. So, The Woman Eater. Is that what you're making the face at?
Yeah.
A mad scientist feeds women to a flesh. A mad scientist feeds women to a flesh-eating tree, which digests them to produce a serum. The idea of being consumed alive by a plant is revoltingly vivid. A low-budget British horror about a scientist's grotesque experiments. Niche but memorably weird. 4 out of 6 for 10 on IMDb.
Of course.
Hold on. So there is also the scene where Steve and the rest of the teens honk horns to get the people's attention. Yeah.
It's like in Peter Pan, clap your hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the scariest scene from Anthony Jordan in the original is that scene when I can't remember the name of the two officers, but one of them is talking about seeing the guy running and he just disappeared. Yeah, like Bill said, there's a lot of things in here that are just implied.
Yes.
And so,
But
yeah,
it
you know,
works. Yeah.
I'm always a fan of that kind of thing. Always a
Mhm.
fan. All right. And one of the final ironies, CO2 is actually a good thing. The
Yeah.
CO2 fire extinguisher, CO2 saves the day. Thank you very much, carbon dioxide.
Oh,
Let's get more of
no.
that into the
Oh,
atmosphere.
the warming.
Yeah,
The
that's
CO2
it.
that they released to stop the blob is the very thing that's going to melt it at the end with the question mark. Now climate change, it's gonna come back.
The weather Armageddon is coming, and thanks to the blob, it's all thanks to the blob. What are you?
Let me say this. I love the ending because it just fucking fits with the tone of this movie. Okay, that's the only part my daughter was in the room and watched. She was wondering what I was watching, and literally she walks in like she knows what the blob is, but she literally walks in when this giant frozen pile of jelly is parachuted down in the middle of like Antarctica, and she knows like a lot of the tropes now, and she was just looking where it says the end. She's like, I guarantee you, there's a question mark, isn't there, Dad? The end, and then there's the question mark. I'm like, that's how it was.
Very
That's how
precise.
it was.
That ending reminds me of Return of the Living Dead, where they call the number on the barrel.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and they just call in the fucking airstrike. Oh, the government's got another solution. They're gonna fix everything. So I'm like, okay. All right. Is there anything about this film that we have not discussed that you would like to get into?
I could see now why it kind of would be like a criterion, not necessarily for air quotes quality when you compare it to, like Seven Samurai or Godzilla or anything else that's like on Criterion. You know what I mean? When you think of Criterion, you think of that type of stuff. But the way, like you mentioned, like it obviously has influenced a lot of people. It has its place in film history. It obviously influenced Stephen King, on 2 occasions. You pointed out how Ridley Scott must have been, influenced with the face hugger egg or whatever in that one scene. So I think it does like have its place in movie history, and I could see why a Criterion is, available.
If I can find a cheap copy for $5 or $10, I don't think it needs a Blu-ray transfer. But I would be happy to get a nice DVD of it. I wouldn't complain. I wouldn't complain. I wouldn't spend $30 for it, but I would $5 or $10. That'd be good. That'd be good. Bill, anything from you?
Nothing. We've hit all the marks.
Okay.
Should wrap it up like the movie wrapped up in 82 minutes.
That is it, with a big question mark. What's next? All right, let's get to the part in the stream where we rate the film. This channel has a rating system that goes from 0 to 5 up by halves. So 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, all the way to 5. So 0, for example, would be I'd rather drink a glass of sour milk than watch this movie again, all the way to 5, this is the journey, this is the destination. This is the reason I watch films in the first place, not the Johnny Drama version. Bill, what would you give 1958's The Blob?
I proudly give it a 3.5 stars. I'm not gonna overrate it because of my relationship with it for 40 years. Like I said, I'm biased. I love this movie, but I'm smart enough to recognize its limits, even though it did what it did very, very well. And it still stands up today, and you can watch it, and it's a beautiful film, and it looks great, and it plays great. It's still a B movie, 3.5 stars, even with Steve McQueen.
Okay. Eric, what do you got?
100% agree with Bill. 3.5. I'm not letting my bias, my memories of my dad and stuff like that influence me, because I know what it is too. It is a midnight show, B movie. That's what it is. It serves its purpose. But for 1958, it's really well done with what it is. Characters I care about and I can follow. It is very lean and in a good way. It's literally an hour and 20 something minutes. Special effects for what they are good. It's a lot of fun. Even that scene where the little kid is trying to shoot his pop gun at it and throws, his little revolver. That brings a smile to my face. He's not an annoying little kid. He's just a kid trying to help. So everything works on screen for what it's supposed to do, if that makes sense. So I think 3.5 is very fair.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the 3.5, but not for necessarily the reasons that people are listing here and all the reasons we've already discussed. I think because, although we did touch on it a little bit, I think it captures an accurate snapshot of a different time.
Yeah.
There's an innocence to things that you just don't find in movies nowadays, and that I haven't seen in movies in a very long time. And back then, it probably was just the way things were. That probably wasn't a shock, but for me, that provided a bit of a shock value. You're like, wow, okay, this is different. This is different. The way relationships are portrayed between boys and girls, men and women, between other boys that are just kind of ribbing each other. These types of things between parents and adults. Because let's face it, there's only about 10 minutes of Blob in this film.
Right.
So the rest of it you have to base on what's actually happening with the people. And you're right, it's not David Lean's Lawrence of Arabia, but it gets the job done. It gets the job done. So I'll give it 3.5.
But
All right,
also, like you said, with 10 minutes of Blob, there's not that much Jaws in Jaws.
Yeah.
There's not that much Michael Myers in Halloween. So it's all in how the creature or the monster is used.
That reminds me, and I think I posted it on the texting group. This is the 50th anniversary of Jaws, so Jaws will be released on the big screen this summer. I think
so
coming towards the end.
Right?
Huh?
We're going to do it, right? Live stream it. Everyone in.
We could. We covered it once, but I'd be happy to look at it again. It's Jaws. We haven't talked about. I haven't seen it. No, actually, I said because I went to the 40th anniversary. And I said that I haven't seen it since then, but I forgot. We covered it when I first started the show. It was one of the first movies we covered. And it was, it's Jaws. But I probably will end up going to see it in the theater just for shits and giggles. Hold on. End of 1958, Toho released The H-Man, which was a fairly similar creature to the Blob.
Toho. You've done it again, Toho.
Yeah. I couldn't believe this was Janus Films. Because guess what we're worried about? Nuclear Armageddon. Nuclear Armageddon is right around the corner. So tons of tropes about that. All right, not the Johnny drama version. Bill, plug something.
Well, I don't get paid to do this, but I'm going to highly suggest, if you don't know about BlobFest every year in the summer, the town where it was filmed and the theater where it was filmed, the Colonial Theater in Downingtown and Phoenixville, they have a festival. It's like a mini monster convention. They've expanded it to camping. They have outdoor film fest. They show the Blob. Everyone runs out. It's a 3-day thing. This year it's July 11th, 12th, and 13th. Do yourself a favor. It's a great time in a nice little town in Pennsylvania. If you're anywhere within driving distance, just go. It's fantastic. When I went, I met Mr. Lobo, one of my favorite horror hosts. It's a great guy. I bought a book about Dr. Shock and just had the best time. You should go. And the town is filled with excellent, excellent breweries. So BlobFest, trust me, if you've never gone, go. If you like horror movies, go. And if you've been going, I'm not telling any secrets out of turn. Don't worry about it. Go see the BlobFest.
While you were talking about that, I looked it up and put the link in the chat.
Oh, nice.
So for the people that are in the chat, go look it up, and I'll put the link in the description later on as we when I get to open up YouTube. Eric, what do you got for us?
YouTube channel. Hey, Internet Eric here. I'm very busy. I'm in the middle of a move, so my content will be very slim, but I will have some content. Like I said, every month on the channel is a theme. Last month was Marvelous May, where it was Marvel movies that were not part of the MCU. So I have, the Punisher movies. I have a couple X-Men movies up there. It was a fun time. Man Thing, it was actually a surprise. I really enjoyed that one for what it was. June is actually John Waters' June. I have never really gotten into John Waters territory other than Serial Mom. It's going to be interesting. So every John Waters film I review this month will be a first-time watch. I have one video up, Crybaby with Johnny Depp. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. And also, I have a couple live streams that I will be able to do before the move. Me and friends here getting together for our usual Friday the 13th stream. There's only one this year, and it's this June. But then on the 14th, me and my friend Melissa are actually starting our own podcast. Live Saturday the 14th. It's going to be one of those whenever we feel like it type of live stream podcast. And it's going to be about films that leave an impression, whether it's good impressions, bad impressions, good movies, bad. Just one of those type of how would I say this? It's one of those things where like you finish the film and you're like, what did I watch? Whether it's a bad B movie, whether it's something like Hereditary, you know what I mean? Where you just wondering what we watched. And the first film will be from last year with Demi Moore, The Substance. That was one of my favorite. No, it was in my top 3 horror movies of all time of last year. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then we'll see what I have planned for July. It all depends on how I feel after moving to the new place.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck with the move. Absolutely. Yeah. For this channel, there probably will be fewer. Well, yeah, there's definitely going to be fewer live streams because it's summertime, and let's enjoy our summer. But I am actually for the channel operating the Summer of Kurosawa. So I'm going to be exclusively covering pre-prepared content and reviews for Akira Kurosawa films, samurai and non-samurai alike. Upcoming, the first one, and I'm finishing up, I'm writing up the last parts of it now. I'm going to cover Ikiru, which I think is from 1952. And I just got a chance to watch it for the first time. I've heard about it for forever. I've owned a copy for forever, but it's just one of those movies, for some reason, you never get around to putting it into the player, and it was just breathtakingly good. Just an amazing, amazing film, non-samurai film about a man who is he's an old man. He finds out that he's dying of stomach cancer. He has less than a year to live, 6 months to a year, and what he does with the remaining time that he has left. It's just an incredible, incredible film. So I look forward to talking about Kurosawa all summer. Because it means that I'm going to get to watch Kurosawa films all fucking summer, which just rules. And if there is a Kurosawa film that I can find that people can access, then, you know, I'd be happy to do a live stream on that to be consistent with the theme. So that's what's going on with this channel. What's up, Eric?
I was going to say, isn't Kurosawa, other than Flash Gordon, isn't he one of the guys that inspired Lucas with Star Wars?
Yes.
Yeah, and I just got a copy of The Hidden Fortress, which just arrived today, which is the inspiration for Star Wars.
Okay.
You've got Seven Samurai, you've got Yojimbo, you've got Sanjuro, you've got Ran, you've got Throne of Blood, you've got Kagemusha, you've got High and Low. And High and Low is something that is one of his, another movie that I haven't seen yet. That actually Spike Lee and Denzel Washington are reuniting to remake, and I think is going to be released later this year, which is about a wealthy man who is the victim of a kidnapping, in a sense that these kidnappers think that they've kidnapped his son, but they haven't. They've kidnapped another man's son that really isn't related to him, and they want all of his, like a substantial amount of money. And so this man is faced with this decision as to whether or not he's going to give up a huge chunk of money for pretty much a complete stranger. It's a morality tale. So, yeah, looking forward to the Summer of Kurosawa. All right. My thanks to not the Johnny Drama version, Bill. Good to see you again. And my thanks to Eric from Internet Eric here. My thanks to everybody in the chat. And we will see you all in the next video.
All right. Goodbye.
Cheers.
Damn, he left real quick.
I think he hit the wrong button. He hit the lead button.
We're still live. All right. Bye, Mike.
Yep. Out of here too. Cheers. Oh wait, here he comes.
That wasn't quite what I had in mind. Good night.
Later. Cheers.
Later. Hey everybody, this is the American Werewolf. Thanks for stopping by. Like the video. Leave